Animarak, how you doing today?
Doing great, Jimmy. How are you, man?
This is a very, very busy day. Very busy day. I'm freaking out a little bit, but just trying to keep my shit together. And I'm very excited to have you on the show. You've been putting money in low baggers' pockets. We got a UFC event. Where is this taking place, this UFC card?
UFC Philly, the city of brotherly love.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm looking at your plays and can't wait to hear you break them down. Let's go with your biggest dog on the card because everybody loves that. Your biggest dog on the card, Paul Craig. You got him at plus 185 going up against Kennedy Nzechukwu. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Nzechukwu. Big dog here. Craig plus 185. Tell us more about why you like him.
Don't feel bad. Nobody knows how to say that guy's last name.
Beautiful.
So Paul the Bear Jew Craig, that's his fight name, the Bear Jew. I love it. He's actually a submission specialist. He doesn't have that great of striking, but his opponent is actually really, really green. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience in MMA, and this, I think, is his first real UFC fight. He's stepping off of Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series. He's looked impressive in everything that he's done so far, but what I'm seeing in the tape is that he's got a hitch in his grappling game. He does not have a good ground game. He KOs people before it gets there, and he's fighting low-level regional content that can't exploit that kind of a deficit in his skill set. This guy, Paul Bearju Craig, if he gets it to the ground, Njoku's not getting back up. So he'll submit him, and I think we got a live dog here at plus 185. He can get him to the ground, control him, ride on him, even if he can't sink that sub in, but I think he actually gets it done by rear naked choke.
Rear naked choke. Big dog right there. And also the Pirates have taken the lead. It's all falling into place. All falling into place. All right, so we have a big dog at plus 185. That is Paul Craig and Animarak predicting rear naked choke. Let's save the main... Well, actually, why don't we just go in the order that you're most excited about? You have another big dog. Big dog, just how you bet it. So you're going to have to explain that. Justin Gaethje versus Edson Barboza. Big fight here. Why don't you explain how you got the plus 160?
So this is the main event. We're jumping right into the deep end here. And this fight is going to be a war. This is fight of the night for sure. Hands down, both these guys are pure violence. Gaethje is a plodding forward movement type of guy. He stalks his opponents down. He will take a shot to give a shot, and 9 times out of 10, he lands a harder shot than they do. He's only got 2 losses on his record. Barboza is one of those guys who's been at the high level for a long time. He's taken a ton of damage. He recently had a bounce back fight against a young fighter who I think Gaethje's going to follow a similar game plan and just be able to implement it a little bit better. This fight is not going the distance. It's very close. If you tell me you like Barboza, no problem. I lean Gaethje, but the key here is you can get some extra value by getting it inside the distance since there's no way it's going to decision. So Gaethje's a slight underdog. I'm going to take him inside the distance and expect that he gets a ground and pound TKO victory probably in round 2 or 3. That's how we got to plus 150, plus 160 with that prop.
Beautiful. So we started off with 2 big plus lines in Paul Craig at plus 185 and Gaethje inside the distance at plus 160. Let's move on to Michael Johnson versus Josh Emmett. How do you see this one banging out, and who do you like here?
I love Josh Emmett in this fight. You can get him right around even money or slight dog money at this point. Michael Johnson's one of those fighters that just never lived up to expectations. He's kind of getting towards the end of his career. You can see him slipping. He's losing some speed. He's just not doing what he used to be able to do. That was his whole thing, is he had crushing knockout power and he was faster than all of his opponents. But as he's getting older, he's starting to lose that speed just a little bit. He's on kind of a skid. He bounced back with 2 victories against 2 very unimpressive fighters, one of which who isn't even in the UFC anymore. Now, Josh Emmett got his face smashed in by Jeremy Stephens in his last fight, so a lot of people have questions as to what kind of Emmett we're going to see coming back after that kind of an injury. But he took over a year off after that. That's kind of the rest time you need to see after a brutal injury. And he's coming back. He's hungry. He's on a tear before that, and his only loss was a split decision that he very well could have won. So he's only got 1 legitimate loss on his record, and it was to a guy in the very tip top of the division who's showing that he's still part of the top of the division these days. So I just think he's the better, well-rounded fighter, and I think Michael Johnson, there are some serious questions about him. He tends to gas out. He tends to quit. It's not the kind of guy that quits. You have to break him for him to stop coming forward. So I think we're getting a nice price on Emmett, who I believe should be the favorite in this fight.
And you're getting the nice price because he got knocked out last fight. That makes a lot of sense. We try to do that in all sports. Let the audience that has something fresh in their memory affect the market and take advantage of it. I like that very, very much. Okay, let's move on to Jack Hermanson versus David Branch. Who you liking in this spot?
We're going to go with Hermanson. He's a slight favorite. Can get him right around minus 130 at this point. The comeback on the other side of this is basically his opponent is getting old. He's knocking on the door of 40. His last couple fights, he got into the UFC too late. In his prime, he was a monster. He was a killing machine. And he got into the UFC, had an unimpressive debut, and then went alternating fights, one win, one loss. One loss, one win, then another loss. So he's rebounding off of a loss here, but he just doesn't quite have it anymore. You rewind 5 years and he was an absolute beast, but he's just not there anymore. Hermanson is a young up-and-comer who's really coming into his prime. He's feeling himself. I think he's going to have the wrestling advantage, and he might even have the strength advantage. I expect him to put this fight on the ground and then probably get a TKO on top.
Yeah, and that's what Ricardo Gutierrez is saying. He's saying Hermanson by TKO. Okay, beautiful, beautiful. And now we come into the Michelle Waterson fight versus Carolina Kolkowitz. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Waterson versus Carolina. And here we go. Another dog on your card. Break this fight down for us.
So Carolina is one of my favorite female fighters, and I've got a real hard time going against her, but we are going to take Michelle Waterson. Strictly based off of her name is the Karate Hottie. No, I'm kidding. But I love that fight name. She's the Karate Hottie, and if you jump on her Instagram, her Twitter, she's put some serious muscle on for this fight. This girl is looking thick and ripped. She is ready to go. She's hitting a late resurgence in her career, and her last fight with a win over Felice Herrig really impressed me. Herrig is a bulldog kind of strength style women's fighter, and the fact that Waterson was able to go toe-to-toe with her, use enough technique to be able to overpower a girl that's bigger and stronger than her, really opened up my eyes to the skill set that she's got. And the fact that she's not laying down, even though she's been around for a long time in MMA, she's still very young. She's only 33. So arguably she could still be in her prime at this point. And it looks like she's taking things seriously. Carolina, on the other hand, was one of those undefeated fighters flying high, had the hype train on her, and then she got knocked down by the top 5 of the division, and she hasn't really responded well. So we're not sure where she's at mentally. I think this is going to be a striker versus grappler matchup, except Waterson can maybe stay alive on the feet, whereas if it hits the ground, Carolina's a fish out of water. I just think Waterson has more ways to win this fight, and we've got a slight underdog price. I think it's going to be a close fight, and if one of them's going to finish it, it's going to be Waterson by submission.
Waterson, yeah, you got Waterson plus 129. Now, that's not Waterson by submission. That's just Waterson to win the fight?
Just Waterson to win the fight. I think she can grind out a decision. She can score on the feet. She can score on the ground. But if one of them is going to finish it, I do believe it would be Waterson of the two.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Animarak. So Animarak is on Paul Craig at plus 185. He's on Michelle Waterson at plus 129. He's on Josh Emmett at plus 100. He's on Jack Hermanson at minus 118. And he's on Justin Gaethje inside the distance at plus 160. That's Animarak's 5-fight card. That's a beautiful looking card. 4 plus lines and 1 slight favorite. And are you staying away from any parlays on this card?
So I do have a parlay that I actually gave out on my podcast. You've got Holland, who's about a minus 190 favorite, and Sadiq Youssef, who I believe is sitting right around minus 160, minus 165. I'm actually going to parlay the two of them together. It wasn't something I was going to give out officially, but since you asked, that's what I'm on.
Beautiful. I love it so much. And Animarak, where can we find you on Twitter, and tell us a little bit more about your podcast?
At Maximus in 3D on my Twitter, where you can find me for anything and everything that I do and follow. If you just want my MMA stuff, it's the Die Hard MMA podcast at Die Hard MMA Pod on Twitter. I let the podcast go every week so far. We are 35 and 26 plus 26.56 units on my picks since I started doing the Die Hard MMA podcast.
Oh, that is absolutely gorgeous numbers. Thank you so much for being a part of the Low Bag fam. Shout out to our guy, Animarak. Beautiful, beautiful work. All right.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.